Hi, my name is Raina and I went to Abbottsley and I graduated last year in 2023. My piece is called Child of the In-Between, Discovering the Daughterland. And this piece is really close to me. It's like very precious. I spent a really long time crafting it, and it's about bicultural identity. And as someone who is Australian-born Chinese, this piece is sort of like a love letter to my identity and how I've come to terms with the conflating sort of bicultural aspects of my identity. There is a realm that exists between the rich, millennia-old legacies of China's dynasties and Australia's debut as an extension of Britain. This is probably the extract with one of my favourite lines. That line was probably one of the first lines I wrote for the whole piece, and it stuck by. It's one of the lines that remained mostly unedited, and it stuck by for most of the piece, and I found that it was really empowering. It sort of encapsulated the whole piece in a sentence, and it was just a connection between my Chinese identity and Australian identity. Investigative journalism, originally I just thought, oh, okay, I can go to the State Library, get some primary sources and investigate and create a historical fiction piece. And that didn't come across as naturally as I thought it would, and I got quite stuck. But I still produced something that I was quite proud of, but it just didn't come across as authentic or real or magical enough for it to be a piece that was my own, because I feel like I was trying so hard to put other people's experiences and reshape them into a way that I could comprehend, that I lost a lot of the original purpose they had and original feelings and emotions along the way. So then the piece sort of fell flat towards the end, and I had to scrap that. And then so the investigative journalism I've done for my piece now is sort of looking into my own life and finding how mother-daughter relationships have changed my perspective as a bicultural person, and how the realization that your parents and your mothers before you have all had their own lives that you don't necessarily see in your own life is just really heartbreaking, but also inspiring and empowering at the same time. Creative nonfiction was something that I had never written before. It was either essay or creative, but then having this opportunity to combine the two was really interesting, and it required a lot of experimentation. So after a lot of experimentation, I found that if I blended sort of personal anecdotes into bits of storytelling as well as drawing upon other texts to create the essay aspect, it would be a very evocative piece. However, the process didn't come that easily, and it took a lot of editing and refining and looking at online articles and countless hours of research to get it to be the way it is. Experimenting came with a lot of reading other people's work and sort of seeing how they tackled the issue themselves, and then seeing how I could adapt that to my own piece, because I think the magic of a piece comes in its originality. Having a piece that had sort of semi-fictional elements, it feels semi-fictional because there's also elements of truth in it, and having truth to back a story makes it all the more believable. The storytelling aspect, I look towards Amy Tan's The Bonesetter's Daughter and Jessica Au's Cold Enough for Snow, and both of them tackle mother-daughter relationships really intimately. So with The Bonesetter's Daughter, it was about how generations, or just simply two generations, can sort of erase an ancestral history because you've moved to another country. And then Cold Enough for Snow is trying to reconnect with this history by spending more time with your mother. Because the main character, she goes on a journey to Japan with her mom, and then she finds out that her mother has had a life more frivolous than she could possibly imagine, because there are just intimate moments that parents have to leave behind in order to migrate to a new country, and their children sort of never get to see these moments. And being able to find these moments with your mother or parents is really important, and I thought it would come across in storytelling effectively. The biggest challenge I faced was definitely turning the 180 I had to turn away from historical fiction. So going through all those hours of research at the State Library and getting primary sources, and then having to abandon that for something even better was a really difficult choice. It took many hours of talking with my teacher and sort of discussing with them what was the best course of action after I sort of turned around. And I'm really glad my teachers supported me along the way, because without them, I don't think I could create the piece that I've created today. Looking back, I'm really grateful for my teachers' brutal honesty. I feel like if they sugarcoated it, or if they weren't completely honest with what they thought, the piece wouldn't be what it is today. Like, without their honesty and critique, and them just outright telling me that this isn't going to work, you have to change it up, or this is inauthentic. It took a big hit to my ego, but I think it was really worth it, and I had to take that chance to sort of listen to what they have to say and take it to heart and not be too disheartened by their words. This is sort of going under advice for future extension to English students. Don't be discouraged when you get a bad mark. The turning point for me was when I got 55% in a 40% weighting task, and it took a really long time to sort of come to terms with this. Like, looking at the mark, you can think, okay, maybe I have to drop the subject, or maybe this is not for me. But in the end, I think there's always a way to make things work. And if you add authenticity into it and you put your heart and soul into it and sort of speak from your own experience in a way that you understand, the mark is going to pull itself up and your story isn't going to fall short. And it's not defined by just one bad mark or someone's critique that you don't agree with. As I sat with the realization that, wow, other people are going to read my work, it was a really curious feeling. I feel like being in a space where you have sat down at your keyboard for hours and hours on end, and these words, it's just you and your keyboard and the words coming out. And it was very intimate, it was a very intimate feeling. And then having some HSC markers and a lot of other audiences read this and find resonance, it's a really curious feeling. I was like, oh, my work has impacted other people, and it's not just me and my keyboard and my words anymore. It belongs to other people, and it's not just mine anymore. And I feel like coming to that realization is quite magical. Yeah. There is a realm that exists between the rich, millennia-old legacies of China's dynasties and Australia's debut as an extension of Britain. This is the place where I reside, the place the waters have carried you. I am a wanderer of this land, brought into a world very few have walked before, a realm created from journeys across oceans in an intermingling of people, places, and their blossoming dreams. I was born into an ocean of my own, my first cries echoing from the eye of a swirling whirlpool of rich cultural heritage. This is Homie K. Barber's third space. In giving this liminal place a name, Barber has consolidated a third nation founded in the expansive gap that history struggles to fill. A space where even the same signs can be appropriated, translated, and rehistoricized and read anew. He gives me hope, identifies me as nameless, tabula rasa, and brimming with possibility. And most of all, he offers the freedom for me to be my own scribe.